Hi student, today I am going to teach you about the looping statement. Before starting the looping statement, I will give my introduction. Myself Amudha, working as assistant professor in Department of Computational Intelligence. My expertise areas are IoT, deep learning, machine learning, data science, data analytics and NLP. So today the agenda is I am going to explain you about how to use for loop, while loop, do while loop in a C++ programming and when we can choose a while loop and do while loop. So before starting this looping statement, we used a conditional statement block. So in that case, the execution of the statement happened based on the condition. That scenario is not at all suitable for all the cases. So sometimes we need to execute a certain set of a block of code repeatedly until the given condition is true. So the looping statement comes into the picture. So this statement will execute a set of statement block until the condition is true. So this loop terminates the execution immediately when the condition is false. This means the execution of the loop is happened repeatedly. Okay, if the evaluation returns true, then the loop will execute, or else if the evaluation is false, it will terminate the process. So first, there are three types of loops structures are there: for loop, while loop, and do while loop. For loop, the working principle of a for loop is first it takes the initialization of a variable, then it checks the condition. If the condition is true, the statement within this loop will execute. Then the increment operator will increment the value. Again, it checks the condition. So this process is repeated until the given condition is true. This is the working principle. How to use a for loop in C++ code. So the syntax for using for loop is it takes a parameter number of iteration. Okay, so the keyword for within open bracket, then it takes the initialization of a variable, condition, and increment operator. So initialization of a variable is takes place in this, then the condition is applied here. Either increment or decrement operator will increase or decrease the value. So this process is repeated, okay, until the condition is true. Example, if I want to display the number 0 to 5, so the display process is repeatedly happen. So for loop is initialized with the value 0, x less than 5, so x equal to x plus 1. So here x equal to x plus 1 means here the value x is initialized with 0, which will be incremented by 1 every time. So the corresponding output you will get is x is 0 to 4. After 4, okay, if x is increased further, so finally you will get 4 plus 1, 5. 5 is not less than 5, so which is a condition failed here, so it terminates the process. Next, while loop. So this loop structure is a very simple one. We called this loop as a entry controlled loop, which means the execution of the loop happen based on the test condition. So the syntax for using while loop is while with the condition within open brace close brace a set of statement block along with the increment or decrement operator. What is the working flow of a while loop statement is after the initialization, okay, it comes into the loop where the condition is checked first. If the condition is true, then the loop body will execute. Okay, then the increment or decrement operator will do the process. That process, condition checking process is repeated until the given condition is true. When the condition is false, then the loop will terminate. Consider the program finding sum of three number. This program is written without using any looping structure. This is a simple statement structure where it is reading three integer. Okay, then the sum is initialized, sum is declared, then three integer values are reading, then it is calculated sum equal to a plus b plus c. This is very simple program. There is no conditional statement, no looping structure. Now I want to rewrite the same program using looping concepts. So how to do that? Now I want to write a program to add of n integer, not a 3 number. Okay, so how to do that? This is a repeated process of addition. So the looping statement comes into here. So here the program to add n integer. So I value is initialized as usual, n is declared, then sum is declared as a 0. Okay, then the value n is getting, n may be a 50 or 100 or 1000. It may be any integer value, positive integer value. So while loop is initialized now, while I less than n, sum equal to sum plus I. So initially I is having value 1. So sum is initialized with 0. So 0 plus 1 is calculated. The result is stored into the sum again. Then I value is incremented 1 by 1. Okay, so this process is repeated until the value I less than or equal to n. Okay, so the n may take a 50 or a 40 or any positive integer value. So in this way you can add sum of n integer. Next, do while loop. The body of the loop is executed at least once. Okay, so here this is called as exit controlled loop. So the syntax to apply this do while loop is do statement followed with the condition. So even though when the condition is false, okay, this set of statement execution is happened at least once. So the execution flow of a do while statement is first it initialize the statement, then it comes into the body. The execution happened. After executing a set of statement block, the condition is checked. So even though in do while loop, if the condition is false, the execution happened at least once. There is some difference between while and do while loop. While loop is called as a entry controlled loop, which means the condition is checked first before executing the set of statement block. Whereas a do while loop is called as exit control loop, which means the condition is checked after the executing the set of statement block. This is also called as a top tested loop and bottom tested loop. When should we prefer while and do while? Um, in left hand side, certain codes are written, which means here the float value is reading. According to the float value, I am reading the same float again and again. If it is a integer, means if not equal to 0, okay, enter the value again. Okay, so this is a again and again I am reading the float value. Okay, so here this is unnecessary checking while f okay not equal to 0. This is not required. Okay, because we are entering float value. Okay, so it should not be a 0. So in this case, what we can do, instead of writing the statement using while, we can replace this checking, okay, after the reading process. So the same code is written using do while statement. So this allow the user to enter an in float value until he enters value 0. So first it is reading the process, reading the value of float. After that it is checking whether I am reading the value 0 or not. So the float reading process has happened repeatedly until f should be 0. So like in this way we can check when we can apply while loop and when we can apply do while loop. So some of the scenario based questions comes into looping statement. So that's all the topic about. In the next video, I am going to explain you about how to use for loop, while loop, do while loop using code block environment. Thank you.